Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Lettermen Row. That is Tim May, the 41-year vet. I'm Spencer Holbrook. You probably are wondering why we're not doing this in person. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I stayed away from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Sunday while the Buckeyes had all of their interviews. 7 different Buckeyes took the podium. Apparently, Lathan Ransom feeling a little under the weather right now as well. But
suspicious, a little suspicious there, you and him.
Yeah, that's why I'm staying away, Tim. I don't want to get the team sick. I don't want any conspiracy theories about Lettermen Row out there. So I stayed at home. You and Mick Walker were both boots on the ground there at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. And for people who know me best, it is really hard for me to stay away. So I'm not feeling well, but I wanted to make sure that we still got some conversation in because we did talk to 7 Buckeyes, Tim, and there's a lot to learn about this team heading into the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff we've already learned. Obviously, this team was built for the postseason. This team was motivated for the postseason. This team probably needed that slap in the face. This team and coaching staff probably needed that slap in the face. They got back on November 30th. The team who did that escapes me now, the name of the team, because really it could be a very footnote in history. I know that's hard for people to understand that. But with the new way of doing things in college football, Ohio State's already played 2 games since the end of the regular season and looks like it's primed to possibly play 2 more, definitely playing 1 more against Texas. And of all places, the Cotton Bowl, where when we all left there last year, we're all writing derogatory comments about the offensive line and how it couldn't block anybody that night. It was crazy. Everybody wanted to blame the game first on Devin Brown, then on Lincoln Keynotes. I go, anybody who says that was not watching at all. Bottom line is what's really, truly gotten him there more than anything else. Yeah, we can talk about Jeremiah Smith till we're all blue in the face, but what's really gotten him there is the resilience of an offensive line room that just continues and, to me, amaze me by the way they keep taking a punch and then stepping back into the ring and, led by Donovan Jackson. But, I was talking to Will Howard about that again today, just this offensive line group. Everybody gets credit, but the way these guys have been able to deal with all the adversity they've dealt with. And Luke Montgomery, there he is. Luke Montgomery, an afterthought through the late part of the season. And all of a sudden now he's part and parcel to what they do on the offense, playing that left guard, spelling Austin Sierveld, who moves over to right guard. Tegra Shabola comes out, and then they do the exercise again. It's crazy because you got to start with the heart of it all, and that is the heart of it all for this team, the offensive line and the defensive line play.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And Luke Montgomery talking about that a little bit as well. I thought his conversation was pretty insightful. He's always been an insightful guy from back in his recruiting days. And, he got up there at the podium as well and talked about the transformation of this offensive line, especially in the last, I would say, 4 or 5 weeks now since that Michigan game, just the ability to get comfortable the last 2 games, the way that they've played. It's been pretty remarkable. The biggest thing that I took away, Tim, and I already wrote about this at lettermenrow.com, is I'm not sure if Will Howard is the quarterback that Ohio State necessarily needed for the Michigan game, but he's certainly the quarterback it needs right now. He finds these little pockets of motivation better than maybe any quarterback I've seen. And these guys are all D1 athletes. They're all great players. To find motivation in the little ways that Will Howard has in these certain matchups, it's been really, interesting to see. He talked that before that Penn State game, this is the program that didn't offer me. And, in my home state, I grew up loving them. They didn't offer me. I want to go beat them. Well, he goes into Happy Valley and beats Penn State.
Hey, may have to recirculate that one. Go ahead now.
Yeah, no kidding. Then he goes to the Oregon game here this past couple of weeks, and he's like, yeah, I really want this one back after how that thing ended. It's not just that it's the Rose Bowl and everything, but how that ended. And then today we're talking to him, and it's like, hey, you didn't beat Texas in 4 tries. He's like, oh, I know I haven't beat them in 4 tries. I want to finally beat these guys. I'm getting another crack at these guys. And the little motivations that he can find, the ways that he kind of channels that for himself, but also, you shouldn't need extra motivation to go win a college football playoff and to go win a college football playoff semifinal against a team in its own backyard. but Will's got that little bit of extra motivation with not having beaten Texas in those 4 tries. I think he had a 5-point loss. He had a 7-point loss. And last year he had a 3-point loss in overtime. Like, this is really eating at him. He really wants this game badly. And I thought that was pretty interesting that he kind of opened up it that way ahead of, traveling down to Texas for the Cotton Bowl.
I'm telling you, man, this team, this team's on its Retribution tour. And it's just uncanny the way this thing is unfolding in all kinds of ways from a motivational standpoint. I mean, just think about it. If they get past Texas on Friday night, they're going back to the scene of oh my goodness, are you kidding me? They were that close to playing for and probably winning a national championship 3 years ago in the Mercedes-Benz Dome in downtown Atlanta. They're going, I mean, every time you look, they've got another motivational factor. Just think if it's Notre Dame that wins that game this coming week and they're playing Notre Dame, just look at that. I mean, the Ryan Day explosion after that game against Lou Holtz, the critics, especially Lou Holtz. And I mean, but I think this team as I was asking G. Scott, I mean, I'm going to write about this. There's like a hum almost about this team right now from the standpoint of just the work that they're putting in. It's almost like when you step into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, you almost hear a hum in the background that there's work going on, and you can feel it also. These guys understand their second chance at life, at glory, at the brass ring, and they're all striving for it. That's not being mushy and gushy. That is fact. The way they're putting in the work, and like you said, and Will Howard, who had a little cadre of buddies who transferred in all about the same time, this time a year ago, after the bowls and everything, including Caleb Downs and Julian Sayin from Alabama. Seth McLaughlin was already here, but those 3 guys from Alabama. And then you throw in Quinshon Judkins. And who am I leaving out? I'm leaving somebody else out. But the bottom line is they all kind of came in together, and it was just a little group of them in the corner almost, right? Now they've all in one form or fashion become leaders on this team. That just shows you what stuff they're made out of. But Will Howard's the unquestioned leader of this team now. And a lot of people talked about it. I'm writing about it later this week from the standpoint of what that means, not just for him, but for the team. I mean, this is a grown man, or as Urban Meyer used to say, a grown-ass man who's at the helm here. And you can tell the way the team is playing. G. Scott Jr., well, I'm looking at him. I've had his dad on the Tim May show several times, but I'm looking at G. Scott Jr. and I'm going, this guy, we have watched him go for whatever he was when he first showed up. Part of that great recruiting class, a highly touted receiver who switched over to tight end, had the headbutting incident against Michigan right on down the line. But man, you sitting there listening to him talk and watching him talk. He's a grown dude, man. He is an adult and playing a kid's game, so to speak. And you look around the team, and there's those guys everywhere. Donovan Jackson, Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau and Cody Simon. Is there any more grown man than that one on this team? And Lathan Ransom. I mean, it's just remarkable the way these guys have grown up before our eyes and become, sort of almost a lower level NFL-esque team.
The transfer that you left out, Tim, of course, was Will Kazmarek.
Exactly. The only guy who's been called for the only guy on the field who was worthy of being called for a holding on Ohio State last week, and it was a joke. It wasn't holding. We got into that a little bit, Spencer. I know you were missing today because of your ailment, but yes, Tyleik Williams knows that no holding calls have been called against the defensive front all year from the standpoint of the offense, and we saw chokeholds. I guess a chokehold is not a hold; it's a chokehold.
It's no surprise that you had the Ohio Bobcats erasure there, Tim. But really, I'll get us back on track.
What a joke that was, right?
Yeah, exactly. Tyleik Williams was right though. There have been some holds. It's not just that the team.
You mean every down, or you mean occasionally?
Well, Here's my thing, Tim. Defensive linemen think they're held on every play. I don't think there's holding on every play against this team. I think there are some obvious holds that do not get called. But when nothing is getting called, you start to point it out on every play, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's not just that this team can't buy a holding call. It's that it's actually impossible to go through an entire and I will use the word impossible. It's impossible that this team has gone the entire season without getting a holding call. They haven't gotten one since September. Jack Sawyer, number 33, if in case you weren't aware, hasn't had a holding called, has not had his jersey held apparently or allegedly since September of 2021. I don't know what it is about this group. They can't get one. And you watch back the Oregon game, again, I don't think there's one on every play, but then when you start to say like, hey, there was a holding there. Hey, there was a holding there. Hey, that could have been called holding. It does start to seem like there's one on every play. I don't know. I thought Tyleik Williams' answers were pretty interesting because he clearly didn't want to make that an excuse.
No, when you're stating fact, that's not an excuse. It's a fact.
And it's not that they want one on every play, although they are defensive linemen, so maybe they do. But it's just like one. They just want one. Like they just want they just want to feel seen, Tim. They just want to know that the officials are watching.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like anybody cares about those holdings like at all.
That's what Tyleik Williams said. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I don't know what I would attribute that to. Now, let's face it. I thought the officials were pretty liberal for both sides for the most part in the Rose Bowl. So I'm not going to it's just amazing when you look at it and you watch the replays how often it has happened, though. How often it happens on almost every possession by the opposing offense, and none of them merit the flag coming out. You understand what I'm saying? And some of them, when you've got a chokehold on a guy, when you've got your arm around him by the neck, that's a hold. I don't care what level of football you're playing on. So that's the big beef. And it's more us making the point than any of the players. Tyleik Williams was just stating fact. And it's unfair, but it is what it is. And as he said, nobody cares.
Well, here, Tim, I'll get us to our final point. But real quick, it's like I would rather see officials let these guys play, which the Rose Bowl officials, to their credit, they let them play. There was some good hand fighting from receivers and corners. No reason to be throwing flags. There's some good stuff going on the interior. No reason to be throwing flags. But there are some moments, like you said, like a chokehold, like Jack Sawyer having, an entire arm wrapped around his throat, and he's got his arm up. Like there's no way the official doesn't see that. That's a hold. That's textbook holding.
Yes.
So it's just kind of wild that there hasn't been one, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe the ACC crew that did the Ohio State-Tennessee game, we'll see them for either side on Ohio State or Texas here in the Cotton Bowl coming up here later on this week, Friday night. Can't believe it's already only 5 days until then. Last thing, Tim.
2 leagues left, so there's 2 leagues you can draw from. I think Notre Dame usually uses officials from the Big Ten. I may be wrong for their home game. So there's 2 Big Ten teams. Notre Dame, which should be in the Big Ten, and a team from the lowly Southeastern Conference, the meek, mild Southeastern Conference left. So, ACC, Big 12, you got to figure that's where the pool is coming from for these 2 playoffs.
Yeah, you would think so. You might get an SEC crew for the title game if Ohio State beats Texas. We'll see. Yeah. I don't know. That might already be decided. We'll have to check in on that. Last thing from me, Tim, and then we can get out of here. I absolutely adore when Caleb Downs gets up to the podium, because if you ask him kind of a nonchalant question, he's going to give you a nonchalant answer. But if you take your time and ask him a question that he can appreciate as a student of this game, as a very serious human being, he'll give you a good answer. And I think it's pretty easy to tell when he likes a question, when he doesn't. I just appreciate talking to him. I think he's really fascinating. Obviously one of the best players in college football. I think he's the best defensive player in the country. So I think somebody asked him about, the Thorpe Award and how Jahdae Barron won it and he didn't. And he kind of brushes that off. But then he's talking about preparing for this. And his preparation, his mindset, his attitude, his maturity, I always so impressed with, but especially now the way he's playing as that third safety, kind of like that in the box, but also playing safety kind of player. So impressed with what he's doing on the field right now. And then you see him at the podium, you're impressed by that too.
Yeah. You know, Thorpe Ward, he was asked about the young man who won it, and basically said he really doesn't know him, and kind of moved on from there. And you know, those are popularity contests. And I don't know if popularity contests. I don't know. Like we said, I still can't remember. I know the kid's name, but it never quickly comes to mind. The kid who was named freshman of the year for Texas, instead of Jeremiah, freshman of the year nationally, instead of Jeremiah Smith. You know, he's a defensive end whose name, you know his name. But the bottom line is, you know, it is what it is at that point. You know, a question I just wanted to pique his mind again, because I like to see how he thinks. I mean, I'm sitting there watching him live in the Rose Bowl, and I'm watching him see stuff and immediately alerting the other guys about what he's seeing pre-snap. And to me, it's uncanny the way this guy dissects a football game. And you're saying, well, a safety, he's supposed to kind of do that. I mean, he's like the middle linebackers of yore, you know, who saw things before they happened. I mean, Chris Spielman used to know plays. It seemed like he was 2 plays ahead on how a team, not only what they were showing him, but what they probably were going to come back with when that one didn't work because of him. You know, Caleb Downs is special, and there are all kinds of physical things you can point to, watch him react. But he seems to have. It reminds me of a center fielder who at the crack of the bat knows exactly where the ball is going, and those guys aren't born every day. And it's a joy to watch those guys run down line drives in the gap and flies to the gap or back over their head. And Caleb Downs, you know, I think he would have made a hell of a center fielder, because he can see, he's watched so much video, it's clicking in his head. Well, it's got to be one of these 2 or 3 things, you know, hey, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Jordan, blah, blah, blah. Lathan, you know, whatever he calls them, you know, their nicknames, their code names, you know, with secrecy going. But yes, and now comes another test against one of the really great offensive minds in terms of calling a game. Now, I'm talking about Steve Sarkisian, Texas head coach. Now, they have not been great by any stretch on offense the last several games. I'm talking about Texas from a standpoint of just you going, wow, you know. But you know the possibility is there with him calling plays for Quinn Ewers. So this will be another great test for Caleb Downs and company.
Yeah, the last time Ohio State faced Sark in an important game, it was the 2020 national championship game, and he cooked up some stuff that was so good that the Heisman Trophy winner was being guarded by Tuff Borland 40 yards down the field. So,
right,
you know,
and that was a game where 3 or 4 Ohio State key guys had COVID on the defensive side of the ball. So, you know, this will be a little more of a fair fight in all kinds of ways. You and I both knew that if Ohio State was going to win that game, it had to win a scoring contest, and it did not.
Yeah, well, and Sark had it dialed up there, and that was obviously against a way different Ohio State defense. I mean, way different. This Ohio State defense is number 1 in the country.
Pre-Jim Knowles defense.
Yeah, it was bad, is what we'll say. I don't think Sark will have as easy of a time scheming something up in this game than he did the last time he played Ohio State. But a lot to know, a ton to learn from this. Excuse me, I can't talk. The Buckeyes also talked a lot about Quinn Ewers on Sunday. We'll have that coverage at lettermenrow.com. We have a lot. Like I said, I've already wrote about Will Howard. It's up on the site now. Go to lettermenrow.com right now. It's $1 for your first 7 days. If you're not subscribed, that gets you all the way through the Cotton Bowl. Then you have all of that coverage for just $1. Then after that, you're going to want to subscribe anyway. So just go over to lettermenrow.com right now. Become a member today. We'd love to have you for $1 over there for the next week. That's Tim May, the 41-year vet. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. I should be feeling better tomorrow. We got open practice. We'll see the Buckeyes in action for about 15 to 20 minutes there at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Until then, just go over to lettermenrow.com, like the video below, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll see you guys back here for another video. We'll see you over at lettermenrow.com.